are hobbits real? Yes, in a way. In 2004, archaeologists were on the island of Flora in Indonesia, digging around in this cave called Liang Bua, and they found remains. These remains, now known as LB1, were from a fully grown woman, but she only stood 3'6" and weighed about 75 pounds. That's roughly about the same size as a chimpanzee or a very heavy 4-year-old. She was a mostly complete skeleton, where they found her skull, a partial pelvis, arms and leg bones, hands and feet, a clavicle. They kept digging around and they found at least 9 others, so we know she wasn't an anomaly. They decided to name this new species Homo floresiensis after the island that they were found on. The remains were found near some stone tools that were also proportionately small, but they would have been used to butcher meat. It's thought that they had the use of fire and sophisticated hunting techniques as well. The majority of these remains have been found in the Liang Bua cave, but there are a couple other sites really close by where they found a fossil or two. Originally, they thought the bones were from 12,000 to 60,000 years ago. That is insanely recent. But then they dated the sediment layer and they realized that it was actually 60 to 100,000 years ago. But they did find some tools that dated back to 190,000 years ago, but we just don't have remains from that long ago. Humans are thought to have reached Australia 65,000 years ago, so is it possible that our ancestors actually met them? One thing that really surprised researchers was the combination of ancient and modern features. They had broad hips, short collarbones, and forward-facing shoulders, which we hadn't seen since early examples of Homo erectus. But their brow ridges, skull thickness, and brain shape are very modern. They had large teeth, no chin, receding foreheads, and feet that were more proportionate to those of an apes rather than a human's. So where did they come from? Honestly, we have no idea. Originally, they thought that Homo erectus had migrated to the island, and then due to the limited resources there, they evolved to be a smaller species, a phenomenon known as island dwarfism. This is very common in the animal world, but it's never been seen before in human evolution. Like, take for example pygmy elephants that were also found on the island of Flores. They're basically like the size of ponies, but they're elephants. However, a study led by Dr. Debbie Argue from the Australian National University decided that this had no evidence. The biggest criticism of this is the brain capacity. Homo erectus had a brain capacity of 600 to 800 cc, and Homo floresiensis only had about 426 cc. To put this in perspective, modern humans have an average of 1400 cc. Then they thought maybe that Homo floresiensis came from Homo sapiens, but suffered some kind of genetic or metabolic disorder. Like, originally they thought maybe they had some kind of form of Down syndrome. But then there was no evidence of this in the skeletal traits. Fossils indicate that they had a long-lived lineage, and it wasn't just an isolated diseased community. So what's left? Maybe they came from our smaller ancestors such as Homo habilis or Australopiths. The problem with this theory, though, is that there's been no remains found except for in Africa. We don't think they had the capability of traveling such a far distance. And okay, I hear you. What about during the Ice Age, when the sea levels were lower? Even with those factors added in, the closest island to Flores is still 12 miles away. In theory, they could do genetic analysis, but we haven't found any DNA off of Homo floresiensis. So, okay, we don't know where they came from. So how did they die? We talked about how they were around 60 to 100,000 years ago, and how humans got to Australia about 65,000 years ago. Maybe our ancestors met our little hobbit friends and ended up killing them off? Maybe there was environmental changes they couldn't overcome. Or maybe they just couldn't sustain themselves on the island anymore. Short answer is, we have no idea. Could they even still be alive? Maybe. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button down below and leave a comment. And if you don't like this video, leave a comment and let me know what kind of topics you would want me to cover in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next video.